All right. You can't catch me making a fool of myself twice. I'll find different ways to do that until I forget. Then I'll do it again. That's how my brain works, don't you know? I only fuck up in recent memory once. Welcome to the stream, everyone. I'm your host, Isaac MCCanary. It's Friday. This will probably be depending on how things go. This will probably be the last for at least 2 weeks, the last time I do live art for this for 2 weeks, because my next 2 weeks are kind of a batshit cluster mess of fuck ass. It's gonna be a bit. But welcome to the stream, everyone. I'm your host, Isaac MCCanary, and the next 2 weeks are going to be a floppy, sloppy mess. It's gonna be a sloppy, floppy mess. And that's fine. But for today, I want to do one more day of drawing. Not, I have a couple things in mind, but at this point, I'm just kind of like, let's just draw. Let's just draw things in the setting. Because again, like a lot of the drawing that I'm doing here is to like set tone, maybe give context, or like give an idea of what something might look like. Not all of it is to be like of a specific thing. It's there to be to give an idea of what everyone is looking at. A lot of it is there just to give idea and inspiration and things for people to expect that they could see. Um so heard him yelling. So welcome to the stream, everyone. I'm your host, Isaac MCCanary, and it's time to draw something. It's kind of weird. I feel like I definitely was like, yeah, I'll just do more, and I'm like, what do I draw next is the real question. What do I draw next is the real question. I feel like that's the thing that's kind of difficult for me right now is I definitely know there are things I could draw. There are things that I want to draw. Um Regarding this setting and stuff. So there is a lot of things for me to do. There's not like a lack of anything for me to experiment and try and draw here. Have an idea? Have an idea? I think one of the things that I feel like I'm enjoying about this project, but also am kind of like wanting to really make sure that I nail is how exactly all of the different things in this setting kind of like move with at least like a sense of like there's always a reason why they're shaped like a certain way and why they're moving a certain way, if that makes sense. And just there's something I grew up actually staring a lot, like a lot at the concept art of things like Halo and of Metroid Prime in particular. I remembered spending just weirdly large amounts of time just looking at all the different concept art and being like, "Wow, this is actually really cool." And I always found it fascinating what did and did not end up ever actually making it into a game. That's something that I always thought was fascinating to a certain extent. Um, like I always found it really interesting, and one of the things I want to like utilize this for, I guess, if that makes sense, to continue practicing a lot of that, a lot of my concept art practice, a lot of my practice at just getting better at doing concept art. It's something that I do enjoy doing quite a bit, actually. We want that there. Now, this is something I haven't really thought about, which is like how the ends, like especially if it's disconnected like this. I don't really think about how that works, so I'm gonna try to also focus on that a little bit. But yeah, Metroid Prime's concept art, I remember bonding over quite a bit when I was younger. It's weird to say. I feel like I haven't seen this in a game in a long time, or I just haven't like honed in on it. There used to be a time where like the concept art was weirdly like a reward in the game that you got for completing the game or completing challenges. And I just am like, man, I feel like I haven't seen that in a long time. But then again, I probably haven't looked for it. It probably still is in games. It should be. It better be. Better be me not finding it and going out of my way to look for it, rather than it no longer really being a thing. That would make me sad. It would make me really, really bummed out if it turned out that nobody shares the concept art in their games when they make them, because it's like I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't see random concept art for all the things that I was playing when I was a kid. It's kind of important for being able to encourage people to get into wanting to do art and stuff. I feel like it inspiring, people to actually want to make things, I feel like. I would not be making things if it was not for the concept art of Metroid Prime in a lot of ways. And it was good as concept art. I need to look it up actually as a reference a little bit, as just like a tonal reference. That game's concept art is pretty fucking wild looking actually, I feel like. Different kind. Why not? I need to look up how did I feel like I changed the hand a little bit, and then I changed it again. I wanted to do something kind of different with it. Let me look at my hand drawing. See, this is what's interesting that I've gotten to with this is doing all of this artwork, doing all this concept art. I'm able to actually build a little bit more of a basis of all of the reference material that I'm working on. And being able to do that will give me more to go on in a lot of ways. Okay, yeah. Which it's time's a moving. It's gonna be here, I think, before I know it, and it'll be honestly, it'll be really nice because I think I'll have a lot more time, focus. I think, hopefully, we'll see. There's a lot of things going on all the time. A lot of things going on all the time, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. I've been a busy bee. September is going to be kind of the end of September is going to be kind of big for me, kind of a big deal, because I think that the end of September will happen, and then I will be both ready for October for what I had planned, and then completely unprepared for what I am going to be doing in October. So I'm gonna be juggling a lot. That's for damn sure. I feel like. Hey, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. But also, be a nightmare. Nightmare. And then I have, so I want to illustrate a little bit better because it's like there's a couple of different sizes of the things that are running around with the idea that, they're all based on what is around and available, right? And with that in mind, I want to be like with this having actually it helps because like sometimes I we watched we I rewatched and watched with my friends um Aliens. I rewatched it again because I love that movie. Uh, but apparently Jackson had never seen Aliens, which I did not know. Um, and it's a very fun movie. I love that movie. But there is a scene that I think is going to help give me a little bit of context on how to make like a smaller creature still pretty intimidating and scary. Uh, and there's a couple ideas I have with it because like I don't know if I want to go. I don't want to make him like super difficult necessarily, but I do still want to make him scary. And Mothership makes a point that like they say like no, every time that there's a creature, almost like any creature, you really should be designing them with the mindset that they are imposing, even if they're not even the strongest. Like they're still scary. Like and the game. contextualize scary as they can't. Theoretically, any creature can kill you fairly effectively. Like, it'll be 50-50 on this, I think, because I think it'll be dependent on how I design encounters and how I design the small creatures, because there are going to be like smaller creatures, and the idea I have behind them is that they are typically that they are the smallest factor. They're like not the they're not the biggest threat in some ways, but they are still a threat in their own way. And I think I know a couple ways to make them that without making them feel completely terrible and awful to be around, but also that they don't just become fodder. I don't want the thing that Mothership does that I want to be able to accomplish too, that also things like Alien and Aliens do, is that the creature designs don't feel like fodder, especially in the case of Aliens. Aliens does a very good job of making it a point that even though there are more and even though they are better equipped, the xenomorphs are not just fodder. Um, they're not just gun fodder. They do a pretty good job of still giving them like a relatively imposing nature that stems from them being much more crafty and much more cognizant and much more uh uh like trying to think of the word that I'm looking for here. The word I'm trying to find is like that they're aware. They're aware of like the survival situation they're in too, I guess. The thing that Alien and Aliens does well is that the xenomorphs always feel like that they are also in a survival situation and treating it as a survival situation as much as the human people are. That's something that I've always liked about Alien and Aliens, is that they have a sense of self-preservation, a sense of sapience and sentience that makes them both not just animals and also not just blindly running at danger until it stops happening. Um, they have an amount of like coordination and amount of thought process that makes them way more intimidating for that. And that's something that I definitely want to employ in this no matter what, is like the creatures whilst being alien in nature and behavior even at points, they are still utilizing like some form of cognition. That's the thing. There's something about the xenomorph between the first and second movie that they really do establish that there's an amount of cognition in the xenomorphs. Like they do process information somehow. Um, that they can make plans and that they can execute on them and that they can utilize an element of cognition to attack and in a lot of ways like overpower groups. It's a pretty important part of those movies that I really attached to. Like they're just really good. Also, this is a hand. I gotta remember hands are bigger. Hands are about as big as your head. So that's the other thing, is like I gotta make sure that these things look scale wise a little bit more imposing. 'Cause For all intents and purposes, they're just hands. But hands aren't small. Hands aren't tiny necessarily. Like in cases like this, I want to make it clear that these creature designs operate either through a little bit of overwhelming number and through their size. Like they know that they're small. That's one thing that's important when it comes to like designing something like this is like the creature has to be aware of its own limitations. So when I'm designing something like this, it would understand that it's small, so it needs either multiple of themselves to be able to take down something bigger than it, or it needs to utilize its smaller size for the advantages that it provides, given the disadvantages that it also provides. So maybe one of the things I need to do is, oh, I know what I need to do. So there's a lot of I might do that right now before I forget. I need to make a note on what certain creatures are capable of, like certain abilities they have. Um, Mothership is fairly flexible in that it really wants you to think contextual for mechanics. Like it doesn't have like a list of as far as I can tell. Let me check. I'm gonna look at the creature guide. There is a creature guide. It's funny. The creature guide could be summarized in 2 pages, and the rest of it is just examples. And the thing that the creature guide does really, 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 really well for Mothership is that when you are designing a creature in your setting, it tells you up front everything you need for a creature, and then all the examples are there to give you ideas on either creatures you could use that they've made or how to write your own creature. Because a lot of times, the creatures in Mothership just have context given to a lot of their special abilities, and they should have a special ability is one thing that they kind of point out. And one of the special abilities I should add for like being smaller like this is like um at least some of them should have some way to kind of wear down their target. And I just thought of that both from this and from rewatching Aliens, that like one of the things that makes the face huggers actually kind of terrifying is even if you, because it's like when you like look at a face hugger in some ways you're just like it's not really that big, it really shouldn't be that much of a problem, but it actually they do a good job of establishing that being specifically unarmed when dealing with face huggers, they are aggressive and stronger than they look. They are specifically stronger than you would think. They're not weak. They aren't weak. They're actually quite dangerous for their size. They're not like they don't have weapons. They don't have They're not armed or anything. But specifically, the facehuggers overpower their victim through a couple of different ways. They don't just do it through one way. And one of the ways is through constriction. So I'm going to, because I've already made like something like that in this, like when I was writing this creature design. Constrict. We're gonna say constrict. Um, yeah, I should just do that. Fuck it. It's got to be scary, man, and I know it's got to be scary. So I can't pull my punches. Some of the, because this is something that actually Monster of the Week does really, really well. And I think adding this as an element will really make it clear, like, oh, hey, we can't have one of these get that close, because if it got that close, you're in for some fucking bad time. Like if, like this guy, he's having a bad time, obviously, uh, but like one of the things that Monster of the Week actually does really well is the GM does not roll. The GM does not ever really roll, and they just assign damage values to a creature, and if you do something to that creature and your like combat skill is not like good enough or whatever, or like you do get a partial success or whatever, you still do take the damage. The DM does not roll, and you do in part that damage. So you have to kind of like manage your HP. Like it's not a matter. Your HP is a resource in Monster of the Week in such a way that like it's not something that you can fully reliably prevent, I guess, if that makes sense, but you can mitigate it in a lot of ways, and they give tools for that. But in a lot of senses, like, you are having to, it really gives you this feeling that, like, when you are in combat is something that you either need to decide whether you're going to dedicate to it or not. So making things in it where if you if your adversary has an advantage like this, I'm gonna say like it would be in my best interest to make rulings that are just like, nope, nope. There's not a there's there's not a role. Um, uh, you just are hurt. You're just getting hurt because a lot of the things I want it to feel like one of two things. When you're fighting a full size version of a creature in this game, you are essentially one for one. Like, it's not necessarily stronger, but it's also not weak. And when you're fighting things at this size, uh, that they're trying to wear you down, and a lot of the creature design is about wearing down their opponents rather than it's about attrition. A lot of the design I like to do, and a lot of the creature design that I'm thinking about, is about the attrition of an encounter. It's about having it be about the longer that the players stay in combat, the worse it's going to get for them. Like, it's not about being able to eliminate all of the opposition. That's just not going to be a reasonable answer without, you know, a lot of legwork to get there. Like, you're talking like you have to do they would have to do a lot of work to actually get to that point, and it would take, you know, nigh on destroying an entire facility to actually be able to say, yes, we got rid of all of them. Like, the idea is that they are still outnumbered. They aren't necessarily going to always be outgunned, but they are effectively always outnumbered, and their resources are going to be made limited no matter what. Like, that I'm going from a kind of survival horror standpoint, that they are not going to have all the resources under the sun, and especially like whilst they can have melee options, it's definitely going to be the kind of thing that it's last resort, and you are fighting. If you are in melee with these, you are at a disadvantage. Um, and one of the things that Alien and Aliens, for that matter, actually the medbay scene is really good at establishing that the face huggers are still like threatening. They're still threatening, and they achieve that by making it clear that the facehuggers are leaning into their strengths of what they have, right? Like, they're leaning a lot into the strengths of what they're capable of, and um, they uh, one second. I'm just making a note. This is the thing is that I'm at is I'm kind of doing now a little bit of background writing while I'm working, because I'm getting to that point that I'm just like, I'm just continually fleshing things out. I'm in kind of a weird. I won't mince words. I'm in a bit of a weird spot regarding preparing, because I'm at one of those moments that I have been writing pretty feverishly for like 2 months. And I'm like starting to be like, okay, now I need fresh material. I need fresh ideas based on things that my players are doing, based on the situations that they're getting in to actually start really being able to progress. That's a thing that I think is kind of unique about tabletop design is that idea, right? That, you know, that a lot of tabletop, I think, kind of hinges on a little bit of that randomness, which I will be. I'm like, I really am trying to still have be a part of it. A lot of the like kind of generative portions, because I think, whilst I think it goes both ways. I think Mothership does a really good job with a lot of its tables. There really aren't that many generative tables compared to something like I don't know, BattleTech. I did enjoy BattleTech, but I do agree with Sean. Way too many tables. There just are too many. There are just too many. And this, at least, there's only two tables that we should be using relatively regularly: the wound table and the panic table. Those are the only tables we should be using relatively regularly, and anything else is niche. There's a table for rolling damage to ships. That's not going to be that common because even by the writing of Mothership, if you're getting into constant ship altercations, you're just asking to get yourself killed. There's a very heavy focus on the idea that space is dangerous, space interaction is dangerous. Actually, it is on your players to try to find more civil ways to deal with situations than being murder hobos, because the irony is the system dictates that the world is a murder hobo a little bit, and you cannot out murder hobo it. You can't out murder hobo the galaxy. It's not possible without discouraging it. Like that's the thing is like I feel like writing wise, I'm like I still would encourage you know the kind of like survival horror encounter that can happen. Like it's like you still can have it, but um you know you really should be leaning into the idea that if this is going to be a horror setting with like scary creatures and stuff, you should have your players be able to weigh the genuine difference between fight or flight, and that fight should still probably have some consequences and teeth to it, right? Like you should not be killing everything in your path, and if you're doing so is not necessarily a good thing because it means you're spending resources, it means you're probably taking damage, and stuff like that. But on the flip side, it's on me as a GM to make them have to make those decisions and put them in that situation of that they should still be losing resources on some level as a survival game. Because otherwise, you run into the opposite problem that I think a lot of survival games kind of run into after a certain point is excess, in which players become a little bit too efficient and then they figure out, oh, it really takes out the teeth when you can manage your resources so well that you don't worry about your resources anymore. That's something that removes tension as well. So there has to be some kind of parlay to be able to constantly make it feel like players are going through their resources and are always on that cusp of we could run out of resources by the next fight or something without completely screw fucking them. I don't want to do that either. I think that's what makes survival horror pretty difficult to design, I think, without accident like to avoid soft locks. Now, granted, I think that was overplayed a little bit on my end as a kid, even to be like, what do I do if I run out of like, what if I just am bad at the game and I can't hit anything? And it's like, I guess kind of the idea is, well, if you're that bad at the game, you restart and you try again, because actually good survival horror results in fairly I think that good survival horror understands that people make mistakes. Like you can't perfectly play. You can't make every shot count. And in a certain irony, that if you really can't make every shot count, then yes, you probably will die because you didn't make every shot count. But I think the thing that has worked best for survival horror, right, is being able to it's not about uh it's not about the the concept of that, the concept of that. I'm trying to think of what I'm trying to say. Give me 1 second. I have to process. I'm collating. We're collating here. Um, the situation, the kind of like flexibility of certain horror games to have flexible difficulty, even within their like hardest difficulties, to be able to be like, okay, if somebody's like kind of low on resources, try to mitigate that by giving them a slight boost in resources that will at least get that they should be equipped for the next area. I think that is the best way to do survival horror, where if somebody has a bunch of resources, they don't get resources for a while. And then once their resources start getting strained, the game can recognize that maybe drip feed a couple more resources, or if they're really really low on resources, like maybe buff the amount of resources they get a little bit. Like there's also this I don't know. Actually, I think Silent Hill just straight up designs bakes in like every all of its encounter difficulty. So like it just they really 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 tried to run the math, or maybe did a shit ton of testing. They probably just did a shit ton of testing in play testing, where they found like, okay, most players needed around this many rounds to be left with this many bullets. So you feel like you're always like about to run out of ammo, but if you're playing competently, you're okay. But it does mean that, but I mean that's the importance of lowering like lower difficulties. So they probably found a median and then made a easier version, so that way people who struggle with survival horror could play on an easier level and not feel like screw fucked, right? It really does depend on the game for that. And I think it's a balancing act. It's a really, 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 really difficult balancing act. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna be perfect at it. I definitely have the philosophy in mind, but I don't. It's gonna be there's gonna be a lot of Calvin ball. I always like to describe my relationship with GMing as it's Calvin ball. You got to play a little bit of Calvin ball when you start getting into tabletop. It's a part of the improv. It's a part of the improv, you know? And again, this is just to give an idea of like, okay, this is this helps give me a better like I don't know why I can't just write everything down. I'm very much a I need to kind of like illustrate it to get a better understanding of like what I want something to do, how I want something to operate. It's just kind of how my brain works personally. I still make a ton of notes. Like I have made so many goddamn notes, almost to the point that I'm a little worried that I might hit an upper limit and be like, I've made too many notes and now I don't know where anything is. Um, but I feel like I make a lot of notes, and something about like drawing this out gave me a better idea of like, okay, this is actually something they should be able to do to actually be able to kind of mechanical theater of the mind a little bit better. Like, oh, hey, this is probably what makes them scary. This is probably what makes them an actual genuine threat. Because there is a little bit of me that was like, how do I make this work actually, where they can be something more intimidating? Because, and I think that comes in that they either are almost never alone, or if they are very, 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 very like pick and choose. Um, Like I almost I know what I need to do. Okay, so I was thinking about this. Is like, how do I make these scary? At first I was like, do I impart the sense of disadvantage on do I impart disadvantage on bullets? And I was like, I don't think that's gonna be fun to interact with because that might make them frustrating to kill. Like I don't want to make them frustrating to fight against. What I want to make them is intimidating to fight against. And I just had the thought, I was like, okay, so maybe instead of that, maybe they have something else that the players have to contest with. Make it a contest at least, and um, go with that, and then make it on the player's side. Like I don't think this is something that because I want the rolling to be mainly on the player's side, making it feel like reactive to the player rather than just and now it's the creature's turn and they roll and you lose. Like I want it to feel like actually no, that the creature got an advantage due to the player's role rather than the other way around. Because at the very least, in those situations, at least to me, that it feels like it was the player's character's misplay or the character's uh there's a sense of at least like responsibility for your own roles, if that makes sense. Um Whereas if something rolls off screen, it's just like, okay. And I can't do that for everything. This game has some GM rolling. I'm gonna be rolling for things like damage and stuff. But and to hit. But I do think I want to give like a couple of things that are player rolls against this that the like almost like bot like deck saves. Let's like magic deck saves in D&D. I want that kind of feeling where the player rolls against it and an effect will happen depending on if the player succeeds or not. But that the creatures do not roll to do that. Creatures don't roll to do that. The creatures just do it, and it's on the players to try to mitigate it or do something about it or roll against it. Like it's on the player's onus to do something about it. The creature shouldn't have to work that hard. And with that, I know exactly what I'm going to do for these are small sized. These are going to be small sized entities. So I'm going to give them essentially a tag where the idea I have is that if a player moves into like I want to say, is it close or is it personal? I think it's personal range. They immediately have to make a speed check, and if they fail the speed check, the whatever the creature can do, it will definitely do before the player can. Which is kind of like a modification of the like light initiative rules that Mothership suggests that you use if you need like more of a rigid thing, and I would rather it be more like a mechanic. I'd rather it be something that they have to engage with, where it's like, oh, if you put yourself in that position, now you have to make a speed check because it is on the player to be able to react in a stressful situation where the creature has an advantage without imparting advantage or disadvantage, without making it feel like, oh, I'm just going to make it harder for no reason. Like, I want it to be tense about it. Like, if the player can succeed at speed roll, unmodified, without imparting any advantage or disadvantage to make sure that the creature wins, there's tension there, there's stress there. And then that makes for a more interesting situation where, okay, so they got a partial success or they got a near success, and I can kind of modify and contextualize the actual stakes at which the person is in that situation, right? Like they actually have a little bit more thing to be stressed and scared of. Oops. So, and I don't know if I want to make it knowing or unknowing. I think I'm just gonna make it simple. Always try to make it simple, I think is what it is. Like maybe I try to use some diction from the game, and I need to look this up real fast. I need to open a book. I both like and kind of dislike that there are very many different books for Mothership, but I think overall the most important ones are the player's hand guide. You can play straight out of the player's hand guide, and everything else is supplementary, so it's really not that bad. Like I said, the creature's manual technically is one page. Everything you need to know is on one page. You do not need to read the creature's manual if you don't want to. I still recommend it. The creature's manual is fantastic. It's filled with tons of interesting and inspiring and scary creature designs. Like it's a good manual. But it absolutely is the most cut down manual I have ever seen of anything for an expansion, even in comparison to Mothership's other supplementary modules and manuals that it provides. Like, it is one page. It is one page, and it only needs to be one page, and that's good in my opinion. That is very good. And the manuals of Mothership in general are really well designed. Anything you need to know has been cut to a single page. Like, if you need to find something, if you need to find anything, you will find it by going by going to its proper page or pages. Anything that is across 2 pages is across the span of the book, and that's it. Nothing takes up more than 2 pages in this game to try to explain, even aesthetically or mechanically, which is good job. They did a really good job of making it easy to find rulings, and there really aren't that many rulings, and I like that about it too. I think there's like sometimes a feeling that you need to really complicate a role playing game. You really don't. If anything, as time has gone on, it has been made clear simple. You want to go simple. You want to go simple. Yeah. And I want it to be like this is not about initiative. This is not about um uh uh making it really all that fair. I think I want the creatures to feel 50-50. You should feel like if they're even on par, the threat is not that one can't be dealt with. It's that one is already dangerous. Like, you might be able to deal with one, but it will feel like you are still fighting for your life to do so. But that just means you're on even ground. That's the idea that I have, right? Like, it can equally as easily kill you as you can kill it. So, to expand on that, because I have more of an interest in horde mechanics, the horde is what's scary. The number is what's scary. You're they're going to be a limited number of people. There's going to be not necessarily an unlimited, but certainly an unmanageable amount more than they will have. Like, especially in certain situations. At least that's what I'm going for. That's what I'm going for. I want to give it a little bit more of that rough sketch look. Oh, I never designed this either. Hold on. Oh, I know exactly what this is going to be. I know exactly how to design one of these. The head is the right size, the only thing. And then what I want to do, so one of the ideas I have for these creature designs is they're fairly consistent, though they might make slight modifications. But I want this one to feel like you've got the same kind of mandibles, but because they're a little bit restricted, they have to modify the mandibles to be a little bit more dual purpose. Oh yes. Yep, yep, yep. Oh, this is unsettling, the thing that I just came up with. I'm like, "Oh yeah, that'll make sense. That all makes sense." Tripod. I like tripods. I don't know why I like tripods, but I like tripods. So like it's structurally the same. It's like structurally very similar, the same to the structure that they would have if they were full sized, if they were full bodied. But because of the limitations of the material that the creature has, it has to adapt to it and utilize them in a different way. That is something that consistently I want to be reflected in the creature design is the creatures have a sense of formality and uniformality to their shape and design and the way that they operate and the way that they change. And ads are in a minute, so I'm going to keep talking and actually do speed draw. Also, I like both the combination of the head crab and the face hugger and that little freak in the thing. There's a specific guy who's just a head in the thing, and he's great and he's awful, and I love him. He's he's a nightmare to behold. The Thing is a great movie. If anybody out there hasn't seen The Thing, it's very good. I highly recommend it. It's a good movie. It's a good film. All right. See you in like 3 minutes, I guess. Take a little bit of a breaky, I think. You know how it goes. As soon as they start. As soon as they start, they haven't started yet. I would have thought they would have started by now. They'll start eventually. They'll start eventually. Just sign this. They're start they're starting soon. They'll start eventually. There they go. Oh, give me a stretch. Give me a drink. And I mean, I would be I would be a fool. I would be a fool if I wasn't not playing to my not playing to my strengths, right? Like, or playing to my inspirations and playing up my inspirations. Like, obviously, like these are the things that I'm inspired by, and I'm trying to make a point that, like, my inspirations are vocal and that they are cognizant, but that they aren't just trying to mimic or copy. I really am trying to study and take the things that I really liked about those pieces of media and then applying them to what I found interesting about them and actually build on them and do my own thing with them. Which I feel like I've really started kind of like leading into, because I've started, like, one thing is that I really want to focus on a lot of the science fiction, because science fiction is super important to me. It's super interesting. I really Science fiction is my favorite form of fiction. It still is, like, and I like a lot of different forms of fiction, like, out there. Like, there's ton, but science fiction has always been my favorite out of them. And science fiction to this day is still, like, any the best science fiction out there has always resonated with me the most. So having a lot of that like wanting to lean into the sci-fi part, and not to say that these pieces haven't, but like lean into what my interest in sci-fi is and my takeaway from science fiction that I've experienced. Be able to lean into that is definitely what I want a large focus of the writing and the story to be, and the interaction. Like, I want it to feel as much like getting to play a version of Alien as much as it is getting to interact with a science fiction future that could exist. Put it that way. Definitely not based on anything that is happening right now. That'd be ridiculous. Um, okay, so yeah, I have a deep seated interest in science fiction and have engaged with a lot of science, almost too much science fiction at this point, not to be like, I want to be able to use a lot of that inspiration now. Like, I've seen a lot of it, and it's a really cool field of fiction that has a lot of really cool ideas and concepts and philosophy and stuff that even when it's being a horror piece, is something that's always really resonated with me, and I've just always wanted a chance to be able to explore that headspace from my own perspective, because I have my own perspectives on it. Like, that's one of the whole things that I'm, like, kind of wrestling with and realizing is that, as much as, like, yeah, I'm inspired by Dead Space, I'm inspired by Alien and Aliens, I'm inspired by all of the pieces of horror media that I've seen, I'm inspired by a lot of the science fiction media that I've seen. Um, it all kind of comes down to into a head of, like, what are the things that I found the most interesting in those pieces that I want to explore myself. It's not about it's not about doing what those things did. It's about being able to enter the headspace of exploring the ideas that those pieces of media explore for myself as a writer, as a game designer, as a person who has an interest in a lot of the philosophy and ideas that those pieces of media have inspired in me for such a long period of time. I feel almost obligated to be like, I have engaged so much with this media, I want to be able to impart my own impressions on what I've learned from it and what I want to try to explore with it. Because that's, I think, the best, as Sean has pointed out, that he put into words better than I ever could. The best science fiction explores things about the human condition, is really what it does. So it's like, even this will be exploring a certain kind of like human future, human space with science fiction horror elements in it. Um, that is actually something I really, really am interested in. I'm really wanting to explore with this game that will be running, and hopefully, I think we're pretty much set. We'll get into when the man is alive again. We did not stream yesterday, and we shouldn't have for good reason. And it's not my place. I don't think it's my place to say why, but we will talk about it when the time comes. I'm sure because we're a bunch of jokuses who process trauma by making fun of it. We'll definitely be talking about it. I think um, next week. So when Jackson is available again, if something else doesn't happen, fingers crossed that lucky bastard. I've had my stint of feeling like I've had bad luck, and moments like this remind me also, actually, all of my friends have had some pretty atrocious luck. And I've had my own forms of good luck that I didn't have to deal with at least things like that happening to me. So, you know what? Fair enough. We all in it together. But that's also why they're my friends. I care about them. But we should be having session 0 this weekend. We will be hopefully ironing out. I will finally get a concrete idea of what my players are going to do, and I can start ironing out and finalizing the initial start of the game. Because it's not that I'm at a lack of like ideas of where the game could start, but I definitely still want to lean more heavily into the advantage of tabletop, which is it is not a game about me. It is not a game about my ideas. It is a collaborative game. Good tabletop is a collaborative effort that involves everybody at the table. It it is on the GM to translate as best as they can a lot of the things that are happening in a game, but they should equally reflect the interests and the gameplay's consequences of your players, and it should always boil down to a conversation, regardless of what has happened. Like that's the best tabletop, and that is the tabletop that I've experienced with my friends. Is that we ultimately we ultimately drive to make experiences that also are collaborative in nature. I think so. They do a good job of it, I would say. And I made it clear with this game. I'm like, this is obviously like I'm really excited and interested to be able to explore a lot of the things I have in mind, but ultimately, this is also still as much my game as it's going to be their game. And I do want to like push forward push myself to really try to maintain that like, you know, this game that I'm going to be running is not just a game of a science fiction game where my friends are in a survival situation. It's also a game where they are uh, exploring parts of the setting that they can and making their own inferences within it whilst making and maintaining that it is some kind of survival situation and let them and one of the things I want to needle in on as early as possible is like where they're actually headspace wise interested in wanting to explore this game. I need to take this, actually. We need to bend this a little bit. I want to make it that, like, it's a like, depending on where this creature is located on a given person, they are not good. They are not good is definitely something I want to kind of illustrate with that. Like, they constrict, but they also try to maim in some way at the same time. Also, once again, maybe this is just maybe it is just an effort for me to turn people into dinosaurs. Because, like, again, one of the things I want to maintain is that, like, an element of the sapience of the creature design in this is that they can be very coordinated. They typically do not want to be by themselves. Actually, they do want to be, like, in a group to overpower a target. Like, they want to utilize pack advantage if they can, be able to take down larger individuals. This, I just need to take a little bit wider. Ever since I've gotten into more texturing, I think my art in general has just really improved from that. Like, I'm just really willing to actually, like, push in and add a lot more flavor to certain kinds of things because of it. It looks good and I like it. Yeah, I like that. Again, I think at this point the goal is less to make really like specific art design anymore and more to, like, kind of like give myself an idea of, like, okay, how do these creatures behave? That's where, ironically, it's like, wow, I'm actually kind of using an element of my science illustration to, like, be like, actually, this is what I want to do. Like, this is what I want them to, like, be interacting with and stuff. little bit thinner. Right now, I'm just kind of. I want to lean into the art style that I've been going with. I've been doing a lot of. Also do like maybe a bit of a background of some kind. I'm gonna do that first off. Do that just in case. I need my ruler. I'm gonna make a line all the way across for now. Now, I do want. I'm trying to think. Trying to make a corridor is what I'm trying to do. There we go. If I do it like this. We'll give at least some scale, maybe. But I want it to go farther. More like this? What if I do it this way? What if I do it this way? That's closer. Hold on. Cooking, we're cooking, we're cooking. Oop. That though. If I do that, that gives me a degree of reference on like how big I want that. This is why the ruler is important for this shit. The problem is the way that I've designed this, I don't think I can perfectly do this that way. Yeah, no. Make that. That. I'm thinking. Does that work that way? That work that way? No, that wouldn't work that way. Got that. Got that? Oh, I'm close. A little bit. Sometimes when it comes to this kind of stuff, you just gotta kind of eyeball it and try things that work. It is the thing that I've like, man, I've been doing this. I've been doing, I wouldn't say I've been doing it all wrong, but I certainly have been neglecting doing this. I needed to do this more. Like that kind of perspectiving makes a pretty big difference, actually. Also, I gotta hand it to Alien for just having some of the best corridors in anything I've ever seen. The corridors in Alien are just absolutely inspiring how good and terrifying they are. Also, I can't imagine what I'm about to do is something that somebody does a lot. It's gonna suck. My eyes? Carefully. My eyes? Carefully. Illustration is kind of bizarre, honestly. Like, it's just how it goes, man. Gotta gotta get in there sometimes. But like, not sure. Just getting rid of that in a way that if I want to turn this into a more complicated background, I can. Not getting rid of it, just kind of covering it up. Little did Baba Z. Ross know that in working in layers so heavily, it has taught me and probably a lot of people that if you find ways to preserve the lower layer, you can use it for other things too. But if you design in such a way that you work forward, things look more consistent too. It's definitely something that's helped me a lot. Like, I just, I've really, really benefited from it. Where did I put? Now, where did I put my ruler? And that. It's just a bunch of lines, that's all it is. Just a bunch of lines. There we go. I mean, for this kind of stuff, this is where I'm like learning. Like, if you're gonna get into background stuff like this, especially if you're working in the environment that I am, which is like, very industrial kind of like background, you need drawing utensils. You need something to make consistent shapes and sizes. That is just something that I've learned. The ruler is a very useful tool when you learn how to use it right. Now this is an interesting predicament I put myself in. Probably around here. Yes. This is why it's important that I can't just like make it at the exact same angle. I have to slightly adjust it. Look at where it's going. Might have done that line wrong. We'll see. This, like, fit in. That maybe? Like that maybe? And this one, yeah, I did do this line. I somehow did this line wrong. I somehow did this line incorrectly. Oops. Oopsie. Oopsie. This one might. This is a very weird angle I put myself in. It does. Yeah, it needs to go out a little bit. Needs to bloom out. Oops. Yeah, more like that. Had to mess with it a little bit. Had to mess with it a little bit. You cheap followers. Bah. No cheap followers here. We already have the best viewers and the cheapest followers. Shit. No. No. Get out of here, bot. Get out of here, bot. Cheap followers, my butt. Cheap followers, my butt. I think what I'm going to do, hold on, we're going to take you. This might be a problem. Actually, no, I know what to do. Select multiple. Select multiple. Wait. Why did that disappear? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Select multiple. Why is it sometimes it'll do transform on multiple layers and sometimes it won't? Don't understand. Well. Hide selection. If only it would work that way. If only it would work that way. Hydrate bot. Hydrate bot, so kind of you. D6. Only been an hour and a half. That's not too bad. Affected it. Like a little bit. Still a little bit big. Given the force perspective there. Given the force perspective there a little bit, I need to... No. Some element that they are not just... Some element that they aren't just, you know, sitting there awkwardly, that they're doing something. Wide. I'm curious. Hold on. I need to think about this real fast. Back to this layer. This to keep that way. This to keep going. Distance. I want there to be an opening there. That. Maybe this? Trying to decide. Boop. I'm trying to decide if this. I'm trying to decide if this. I feel like it might go. Wanted to distract is the thing. Too many vanishing points. Many vanishing points. But I do. My brain is like, you gotta figure it out. I'm like, why do I gotta figure it out though? Why do I gotta figure it out, brain? Huh? Why do you care? No, that breaks too much. Don't overthink it. Sometimes you just gotta work with what you got. You can't overthink it because if you do, you end up doubting, and then it's like blah. Then it's like blah. Sometimes you just gotta work with what works. Just gotta work with what works. I want it to look like there's passage here. Wait. Definitely wanted to do something like this. Yeah. Something like that. Definitely. The roof. That's a roof. This is a roof, and we've got on track. This. That can keep going till like door. Bulkhead off in the distance. Why vanishing points are kind of difficult. Vanishing points could be very, very tricky, I feel like. Like if I try, I can really get close. And I mean like this, I just need to roughly put in anyways, because it's going to be so far in the distance that I'm going to start doing stuff like this. Stuff that is farther in the distance is it's going to be harder to see. Anyways. That little that. And then we're one more layer here. That's working actually. Now this is working with some This is working with that good idea juice. I don't know. I've got something nice going here. I want to try. Just gotta make my hands make the motions. That's the important thing, is you gotta make sure that actually your follow through is consistent. Oh, that ruler is gonna be a problem. That ruler didn't cause a problem. Then, actually, now all I gotta do, first off, big as possible, and we're gonna do one more layer over. Good darken everything. That. Back to the white. I don't want to put too much, but I do want it to fade out a little bit. That way it's not quite the same, but I do want to use it to my advantage. Start adding a little bit of texture things on the top. Go back to this. I really want to flesh out a lot more of this. Mid. Want darker. Start darker. Maybe a little bit more on the side here. Really kind of try to illustrate that I want that feeling that they utilize the environment in a way that the players cannot. That the players uniquely cannot operate in the environment that the way that these creatures can. Means that if that's that big, I need to shrink him more, I think. Perspective and all that. He needs to be a little bit bigger. At best. I'm gonna have to stop using the eraser and start using something else here in a second. I have to start using the color white. I'm gonna do that. I do want it to. There we go. How exactly would something crawl across the ceiling shaped like this? Is the real question. How would they do it? This is the hard part, is how would they actually do this? Is the challenge for me trying to figure this out. Perspective is a hell of a thing. Sometimes she's gonna be like, that's good enough. Do like that. Then I need to go white. Something more like that. And I'm still trying to... I definitely want it to be one of the regular ones. I like that, though. It looks good. Might even shrink him a little bit. Really give some more depth into that hallway. Move this. Always be willing to change the parts you need to change. I mean, this might be all we work on today. We'll see. I mean, I'm enjoying drawing this quite a bit. Like, I really am enjoying drawing this a lot. It's simple too. I don't want to. I don't want to work too hard. Tough. Just to like give a little bit of contrast. Just like a little bit. Just like a little bit. Give it a little texture. I don't know why this is the kind of thing I like to design. It's ever since I saw Alien and Jurassic Park and Aliens, I've always liked this kind of stuff. Halo actually really it's we were talking about this last night. It's kind of astounding the cultural impact that Alien and Aliens had in a lot of ways in a vacuum because if you think about it, all the good things that Alien inspired and influenced really are divorced from the source material, and the source material itself is kind of anthological because they are, whilst they have, you have Ripley and you have a lot of the events playing on each other, they're largely divorced from one another. The as Sean kind of put it, the first movie and the second movie were kind of strokes of luck. They were just kind of things that popped into existence due to all of the right things happening in the right places. Um, and then from that, you have an entire cavalcade of media that was directly influenced and inspired by Alien and Aliens. You're looking at Metroid, Halo. There's more. There's tons more. Signalis. Anything that utilizes kind of like any of the tropes that are established by Alien and Aliens, like, but then as a medium themselves, the franchise itself has really struggled to hold up its own weight, and I think it's because it's not, as Sean put it, it's not like somebody's brainchild necessarily. It's actually the combination of a lot of different people working on it together to really impart their creative visions into one cohesive thing. Like Alien and the Xenomorph, and a lot of the like creature design is not Ridley Scott's. It's really H.R. Giger's. Giger is responsible for that design. Um, it's great. Uh, the technical design was like a combination of a lot of effort from a lot of different people, and the science fiction writing was still not like it was done in service to the work that was being done by Giger and Ridley. It wasn't one idea that really manifested in that manifested the creation of that franchise and a lot of its influence. And its influence can still be felt like in so many different pieces of media. We were watching it last night, and Jackson remarked kind of like as a joke, but also as a kind of serious, like, I can see where you got your interest in found footage. And I was like, yeah, no, like seriously, the use of the camera feeds in Aliens is it's inspiring. It's like impressive that they did that effect. Is like almost a one-off effect, and it worked so well. It worked so well for them. They did a very good job of really establishing that the stakes, and like utilizing the the camera feeds to really sell the like tension and atmosphere of that setting, that it wasn't just set dressing, but that actually they felt genuinely unnerved by everything around them. Good. It's fucking good. It's a good ass movie. Good. Jim Cameron did a good job. I wouldn't mind. Let's see, where are we at? Almost 2 hours. Might go for another hour. Kind of working on this for fun. We might just do this today, and then I'll probably call it. I would like some extra time myself, maybe to work on maybe a couple other things just for myself in general. I am doing a lot of stuff at the moment, so go ahead. Causing problems for me. Oh, what I'm missing on the. Where are their ears? People have ears. People have ears. My creatures have ears. I need to give more ears to things. I sometimes neglect the ears. I don't know why, too. Like, I usually hide them behind. It's not even that I dislike drawing them. I forget to draw the ears sometimes. I don't know why. I don't even know why. Oops. White is my eraser now. I gotta use that more. At. 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 Oops. Time. Oops. Wait. That color. Just kind of layering a little bit. Back to the white. Probably do that last. I'll probably go back with some white or something at some point. Ah, shit. You guys, how long have you been in that ad break? How long is that ad break? I need to keep a better eye on it. At least I can see it. At least I can see it usually. That's my bad. I just want my coffee. Coffee break. Coffee break. My coffee break. My cupy break. Oops. 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 Ugh. This is coming along nicely though. Like this is the point that I'm at that I'm like I'm not super concerned about trying to make discrete things now, and I'm just more concerned about like just things to be like this is what I'm going for. This helps me this helps me process to get ideas and like how to put essentially it's a way for me to think about how to get my players in these situations rather than trying to make what is going to be seen all the time. Like this is giving me the kind of sense of like okay, this is how things behave, this is how the world looks, this is the kind of situations that the players are going to find themselves in and what that looks and smells and feels like, is really what I'm going for at this point. Welcome back, everybody. Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing well. I do much, much bigger. Weirdly enough, yeah. He's thicker even. Oh, can't. I'm trying to like give the feeling that more wear surfaces. Gotta get that used food future. Gotta get that used future feeling. Want that used future. What I mean? Want want to add a little bit of light just so that way there's a little bit of texture there. Yeah, kind of space that is. Maybe make that roof a little bit darker. Make the roof a little bit. Actually, yeah, would have to go that way. That a little bit darker there. I'm gonna try adding like maybe lights here. Need thinner. Just something to give a little bit more feeling to that. Dash here. Gash in the ceiling there. Ideally, I'm just kind of adding flavor. I'm just adding flavor to the environment right now. We need lighter. Lighter. There we go. Better. Better. Hopefully, that works as intended. The idea I need to go with is that I'm just putting stuff down, and then I'm going to use lighter colors. Right now I'm just adding a lot of I'm just adding a lot of texture and stuff. Oh god. Oh god. Sorry. Sean just sent me something that I'm going to have to watch later because it's a video that we were discussing fairly recently about somebody who said he wasn't going to do this video, and then I guess he did the video anyways because he's a mad lad. That or it's somebody else. Nope, it's him. Stupid. You said you weren't going to do it, you liar. You lying sack of ass. Not Sean, somebody else. He didn't do anything bad. He just said he kept on saying, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do it. It would drive me insane. And I guess he went insane and did the damn thing anyways. It's noodle. It's just noodle. With noodle things. He either cracked and there was like enough demand for it, or he just had that monkey's paw that he was sitting on, and he was just losing his mind thinking about it and had to make a video about it, which you'd be surprised is it's a pretty valid reason to make a piece of media. Like you just are like losing your mind thinking about it and just need to process it. Otherwise, you will lose your mind. You'd be surprised. It's surprisingly motivating. It's a surprisingly motivating incentive to make something. Is I can't stop thinking about it, and if I don't fucking do it, it's just gonna continue eating up my sleep. That is a pretty I would say legitimate reason to make something that I think a lot of people, me included, have made things for. Hell, this project I'm working on is a little bit of that. I've been wanting to work on one of my big three for a long time, and I mean this is progress towards that. It is a game in a survival horror sci-fi setting that I've just wanted to be able to explore that concept of being able to just try that. I've just wanted to try that. Whether it was in a video game or not, actually kind of was less important than just being able to do the damn thing at all. And then if it can get adapted into a full video game or a larger product or project or piece of media, sure. But for now, it's just like I just want to be able to process the damn thing. It's been sitting in my head for since I decided, man, I think that games like Silent Hill and Resident Evil and pieces of media like Alien and Jurassic Park and a lot of media that I grew up with were dope as shit. I want to be able to make something with the ideas that they give me. Only so long that that shit can sit in your brain before you start screaming a little bit, going, I need something with this energy or else I will explode. At least for me. I'm that kind of creative. I feel the muse's song sometimes and I just go, it's gonna drive me crazy if I don't do anything. If I do nothing with it, I'm just gonna continue to lose my gourd a little bit. That's why it's always important, both for me and for anybody out there. I do this because if I didn't, I wouldn't know where to put any of this. I wouldn't know what to do with it. This is more of a way for me to get this kind of creative energy out in some way, shape, or form, because it would manifest no matter what, and I need to put it somewhere. I need to put it somewhere. Always important to remember. Do this because God knows I would be doing it anyways. Sometimes it just boils down to I'd be doing this anyways. I don't know why, I don't know how. Would be doing this anyways, no matter what. There we go. There we go. I don't know how to draw those back legs. Maybe I don't need to. Maybe I don't need to is the answer. And out of curiosity, did I do a good job with this? How does this look without? Yeah. Enough. I kind of like weird scratch marks, so. Weird scuffs. I want it to feel like scratching on the paint. If there's paint. I don't know. I don't know if there's paint in this setting or not, I'm not gonna lie. A little bit more texture. A little. Texturing is kind of difficult because of this very reason. Sometimes you do just gotta go through with a fine tooth comb and just be like, nope. One of the things I gotta remember is I can use white inside, but if I need to ever curve something down, I eraser outside. Eraser on the outside, that'll just nice things down a little bit. That way they're not as sketchy or overwhelming. That way I can do stuff like this. Oh yeah, that looks better. Oh yeah, that looks better. Yeah, at this point, I think I want to focus on making promo art until I need to like make something new. Like I want to focus on like really selling like okay, this is the kind of thing that you could imagine happening in this setting. This is something to be like this would be something that you would be expected to see. This is the kind of thing that you don't want to happen. Like I want it to be inspiring. I want it to be something that somebody could look at and be like, "Whoa, what the hell is happening in there?" It's crazy shit. Cheat day. Cheat day. this kind of shows off a little bit of my graphite pencil experience. This is because this program does a pretty good job of emulating like kind of a pencil effect. And this is probably like my major discipline, I would say, is this kind of like pencil effect. I used a lot of pencil growing up. I did a lot of sketch work. It was like kind of my most familiar medium that I worked in was a lot of sketch work, I feel like. Just something I was very comfortable. So being able to utilize this kind of sketch effect like really kind of plays to my strengths, I think, compared to what I was doing. I tried something I didn't really know, and I needed with the project that this is like this important. I actually need to not experiment. I need to experiment when I'm doing experimental work, and I need to do what works when I need to do what works. And in this case, I really needed to knuckle down on what I know. I will admit I tried something at one point. I was like, this was a mistake. This was a mistake. This was a mistake. Because if part of what I was going for was like, okay, I need to work and do what I know how to do to make sure that I'm making forward progress. The irony is I need to do what I know works, and I can't actually experiment as much. But it does mean that I feel confident that I'm at a place that I can actually do that, right? Like maybe I'll experiment within the media that I know, but I need to make sure that at least some element I know that I'm doing it right. Like I know the concepts that I'm doing. Now, to be fair, I could also argue that at least I was doing that a little bit from the perspective of like, sure, I was trying something different media wise, but I at least was using concepts from other media. So I at least was trying. I also need to remember that, like, as long as I'm trying stuff like that, that's fine too. You just gotta try stuff sometimes. You just gotta try stuff sometimes. Finer. And again, this I want to make it feel like, this the creature design in this is about a combination of things. It's about overwhelming, it's about utilizing the space and the environment. It's about making them try to put themselves a little bit in a mindset that the creatures themselves are operating in a capacity to try to put themselves in a bit of an advantage, and that they'll lean into that advantage if they can get it. But on the flip side, will avoid conflict actually in a certain sense if they can't put themselves in that advantageous spot, like actually. I don't want them to feel that way. So like if they run into one of these smaller guys, like if the smaller guy can't get in striking range within like a turn or two, it'll do something. It'll try to do something to be evasive. Like it's not just gonna rush the players and then like do nothing. Like it also is aware that it needs to make its moves count. and if it can't, it will do something to mitigate that. That impression. A lot of effort there on its end, like it's digging in. Like, I also really wanna, I definitely am going for the feeling of like this guy is not. If something doesn't happen in like a turn or two, he will go down. He will go down. This will be bad for. This will be very bad for him. And it should feel that way. That's something that I want to reinforce with this game and the setting is that like these are the kinds of situations you don't want to find yourself in, but they are possible to happen. And if they do, I will make them entertaining, at least from a horror perspective, right? Like from a alien, from a like perspective of like, oh no, if you're in this situation, you're gonna get a visual that is gonna be not fun from a if I was in this actual position, you're in deep shit. But not to like I don't I want this kind of situation to be something that if the players found themselves in, that it would be like, oh, but like, from that entertainment standpoint of like you watch a certain amount of like horror films and a certain amount of like Alien and Aliens to be like watch people put themselves be put in really tense and scary situations and even gruesome situations. That is an element of horror, like that even I understand and respect is like if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. There's a certain element of like the players. I have to be like, hey, do let me know if I ever go too far. But nothing that ever happens to your characters is supposed to be a punishment because it is a part of the horror. It's a part of the experience. You're. I want to make sure that everyone's on the same page. That like when something bad happens to your character, it's because your characters are in a setting where bad things happen to everyone, pretty much equally, and that a part of the entertainment is seeing how those characters respond and react and engage with the bad things happening to them, and not about that bad things should never happen to your character, or that when bad things happen your character made a mistake that you know that you deserved it somehow. There's a certain element I think of the best horror that they established that actually, in my opinion, unless that oftentimes quote unquote bad things happening to a character is not always deserved. It can be. It's not to say that it can't be. I mean, we were just watching Aliens, and Aliens has a moment where definitely a character deserves to die. Um, though it is funny. I think there's a little bit of irony in Alien. I think unintentional irony in Alien that sure that character deserves to die, but also they kind of were written in a position that even if they were being a complete and insufferable dickhead, also the character's responses to him kind of continued to force his hand to be a little bit more of an asshole, because in reality, they were threatening his survival, even if he was being a complete dipshit. No, he's being a dumbass, like, for a lot of the movie, but some of the things that he does are kind of indirect, consequential decision to the positions that people were putting him in. Ripley literally tells him that when they get back, he's gonna be nailed to the wall in a survival situation in which he is kind of getting put in a position that he's boned if he survives and does nothing. So, like, he's a bastard for what he does. 100%. For everything that he does in that movie, he is an asshole. But also, there's a certain amount of self-preservation that he does act on that is warranted. And it is kind of like a little bit like, Ripley, maybe you shouldn't tell the corporate guy, the corrupt corporate guy, how they're going to pay for their actions whilst you're still in the situation. That might have consequences. So, like, it's at least, like, a little earned there. But at the very least, like, a lot of the things... Most of the people who die in Aliens don't necessarily deserve to die. And that's, I think, something to remember, especially if you're running or playing a horror game, is that the best horror should feel like you are under a lot of pressure and there's a lot of tension. And ultimately speaking, when a character perishes, I want to keep this in mind, is that it's not because they deserved to die, it's because it's a part of the experience. Like, a character dying is something maybe to be expected, but not predicted. You can't predict when someone's going to die, I think, is what I want to go for. I should make it predictable when someone is going to die. It would work better if it is unpredictable, if it is mechanical, and on some level that, like, you finally did get done in, and that you kind of earned your death. And I really mean that. Like, you didn't play poorly, you actually played really well that led to your demise. I think that's something that is important in this game that I want to lean into, is that I don't just want to kill the players. If anything, I want the players to buy in and buckle up and be like, I'm going to put myself in a situation that if I die, it's because I put myself there, not because I just had a bad game or had a bad set of rolls or whatever, right? Like, they worked within all of their power and, like, came to the conclusion that, you know what? My character's gonna bite it, and because my character's gonna bite it, I'm gonna do something with that. It's a moment for the character and the player, which is an element of Mothership, is that, PC death or PC danger like that is something that the players actually have investment in too. Like, maybe they don't want their character to die, but they do and should be in the mindset that in the event that they do, they'll want to do something with that. They'll want to make it a moment. They'll want to make it they will want to make it about them. It's your death. Make the death about you. It's your death sequence. Make it about you. I think that's totally fair. So if somebody's in a position like this, they should be like, hey, the things you don't have power over, you have 4 things crawling on you trying to take you down. What are you at least doing in those moments, right? Like, what are you doing about it? How is your character acting? Like, go ham. Are you completely helpless? You can do that. And, like, act it out. What is your character going to do? And then what are the consequences of that? Like, that's it. That's all I have to do. But I want to lean into it too, to be like, hey, you have some agency here. Even if you're not going to survive, what are you going to do about it? Like, what is your character doing as this is happening to them? Like, you're in a bad situation. You might not live. but you can still do. You can always still do something. I really like what I this was a really fun like little motif. It's like a nice little diorama that I drew. Like I said, I want a lot more focus moving forward to be about kind of like maybe generating a little bit more hype or generating like just a frame of reference of where I'm gonna go with this game, of like the kind of a setting and the kind of feel and the vibe, the aesthetic. I just want to experiment with this aesthetic now, with the medium aesthetic that I have right now. You know, now we go with the white. Where things are deeper and not deeper. This a little bit darker, maybe. That it's behind. This a little bit darker. This a little bit darker. This a little bit darker. Like a lot of contrast. And a little bit darker. Things that are kind of behind, things that are kind of underneath, uh, always are just like a little bit darker by necessity. Just helps give depth. There we go. Yeah. This is just fun. This is just fun to draw. I like drawing this. This is just a fun little diorama that I did today. That, that, brighter. A little bit brighter. This a little bit brighter. Add lights. And add lights. This is overall. I mean, that's not the worst thing. Okay. Yeah. On the wrong layer. Oops. Be a little bit wider. Trying to do is lighten up. This should be wider. These are overall contrasting a little bit more. Just a little bit more. Honestly, I just think I need to make this darker. Yeah. I just need to make that darker in general because it's farther in the background. Kind of like that. And the idea that I have with this is like it's not, that the bigger ones can keep you from moving, but this is like it's just a lot. It's just a lot on you. They just overwhelm you, but you can still like move around, you can still run around. In this case though, he might be blinded because he's got it wrapped around his head. That might also be something, is like if it can wrap around your head, you can't see. Make that a little bit more contextual. Just stuff like that. Even kind of, I mean, like, I want it to be scary. Like, maybe these guys try to, like, specifically, like, the smallest ones. Oh man, am I gonna pull some inspiration from the classic The Mummy? The Mummy had one of the scariest things when I was a kid. The scarabs freaked me out, man. The scarabs in The Mummy were not fun for me. And anything that like burrows in is just like an immediate like nope, 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 can't do it, can't do it. Even to this day, like I can stomach it maybe, but I'm still just like it's rough. I'm almost just like, do I want to traumatize myself with that? Just be listen, just because it's scary, I know it's scary, and I find it scary. Do I even want to put myself through that? Even I have my limits, believe it or not. And go lighter because I don't want it to be thick. But darken a little bit. I can go back through and start re-adding highlights. There, there. It's in front of what? Kind of like that. Go thin. There we go. there. I'm just kind of adding a little bit more texture back to everything. A little bit more depth, a little bit more outline. This is the illustrating part. Help it. I like. It is silly to me that, to a certain extent, my science illustration does actually really come in handy here. Like, to be able to be like more illustrating than just here's a cool drawing. Like, it very much has like concept art. Like, you should get the impression of like what things are doing, how they're behaving. It is something I want to establish with this. Get grippies. Some grippies. Something like this. And with the power of digital art, I can do even more. Kind of. I certainly can make it a little bit more detail oriented, be able to isolate some of this stuff. Nice. A white here, right? Actually, I want to expand this out a little bit more. Thing. Go with a white here and add that so that way you can see it goes around. I also like this because I think it does a good job of showing like I'm getting a better idea of what kind of strength that these creatures have. Like they do have strength. Like even if they're this small, they're not weak. Important. It's important to me that they feel like pretty imposing for this kind of stuff. Go white. I shrink that down a little bit. We'll actually have. I need to have one more this way, right? Add another finger there. Oh yeah, I like that. Oops. let's go with, yeah, that. Just need a little bit more there. Honestly, if the thumb goes around, I need one more here. I want there to be a little bit of internal. That, right? Go dark. Outside. That's impression. And this is just something that I'm probably just more bad about, is like I can't help but use like really, really dark colors and stuff. That's why I'm trying to use more whites and stuff to contrast and be able to add that in and be a little bit less actually less contrasty, because I need to add more midtones and stuff. That's something that I'm not always the best at, is adding midtones. Oh, I know what to do. Sell the effect. Um, get a midtone in there. Kind of like that. Then here, like that. A little bit of a highlight there. That's good. Oh, I like that. Ooh, I like that. Ooh, I like that. Keep on doing. I want to know. How do I keep on having that happen? Add some more midtones here and there. Ooh, I like that. Then, one more effect. Go down to this right. Oh, no. Big. Darken the whole thing. Maybe just darken the whole thing except for that corner. Nope. Like this, maybe? Haven't picked up, which is exactly what I want. I am actually trying to be a little careful. Yeah, something like that. Ooh, I like that. Just gotta do what works. Focus on what works. Back through. Oops, too wide. Wider. Stuff there. Oh, ads are about to start. Ads are about to start. Thank you for letting me know. Thank you for letting me know, Twitch. It was nice when you told me that that's about to happen. Probably do one more ad break and then go for at least 30 more minutes, I think. Is kind of what I've come to a consensus. And I mean, I think I'm at the place that this is what I want to be doing, right? Like I feel that most of my work is just like I'm just building on it. I don't really need to do super specific stuff at the moment. That I got done. Now I'm just trying to build material. I'm just building material. All right. You guys are about to go on a break. Might actually run downstairs really fast and grab a snack. I'll grab a snack as soon as it starts. Hungry. Okay, be right back. No, I'm gonna be back before it ends. Right, time to try my premium grain snacks. What they say in the English that I can read on it. I have no idea. I liked me a good, weird, ricey bullshit. Boy. Oh, you probably heard that. Oh, it's like a cigar. It's like a cigar. Oh, you know, it's much more cigar-like than I even anticipated it to be. Hmm, not bad. Kind of like it. Hmm. I mean, I am effectively eating a bird stick. It's kind of delicious, actually. Ah, shit. I am a bird. It's official, I am actually a bird. Another one. It's kind of tasty. The fuck? Man, it has no blue, it has no red, and it has no purple. I think these are Korean. Non-fried healthy snack made with 15 all-natural grains. Right, because they come individually packaged too. I'm just looking at the big package on it. I'll read one more and then. Oh, it was blue is artificial colors, red is preservatives, and black is purple. So it was purple. It's black on here. It's MSG. It's got nothing. Yes. Made out of bird seeds. Kind of made out of bird seeds. Hold on. Thought we were actually looking at something. Welcome back, everybody. I'm eating bird seeds for a snack. They're not bad. Actually pretty good. I'll have to get these more. I had to eat 3 of them, but there's also a pack of 15, so not bad. They just actually they kind of taste like really good. I kind of like them. Who needs granola bars when you've got puffed grain logs? Now, I'll probably do a little bit here. Go for about 30 more minutes, and then we'll call it. I mean, I think this came out great, though. I think this looks awesome. Want these? Kind of distracting. I do like that it's that you have the 2 on top. Like this is 5 discrete. This is 5 different entities right now that's on screen. 2 in the background. Oh, this needs to be white. Yeah, something like that. Something like that. There we go. Perfect. Perfect. Oh yeah, I like that. Ooh, I like that. Again, this is where I want to like differentiate myself from things like Dead Space. It's not supposed to be just even space zombies so much. If anything, it's like I'm pulling a little bit from even the Evil Dead here, because that's something I've liked about the Evil Dead that I didn't know until I finally watched the damn movies, and they're great. I love them. It's not so much that they're fighting zombies as they're fighting like possessed, empowered corpses. That's what I'll give credit to the Evil Dead. They don't just make zombies. They're kind of more weird than just zombies. I also love that they've got a lot of personality. The antagonists and the creatures from Evil Dead are always so entertaining because they themselves are like characters. The creatures in Evil Dead are very silly, but because they're like goofballs and they're weirdos too, not just because they're jokes. Like they themselves are like actually scary when they actually do scary stuff, but they also are weird. They're just weirdos. They behave weird. They say and do really weird and bizarre things. The puppet from the show is like one of my favorites. God, that puppet is so fucking funny. But he's got personality. That's the thing, is a lot of the, even though they're like monsters and they are terrifying monsters, they've got so much goddamn goofball energy to them that it's hard not to be like, man, that's what's gonna kill me. And I'm not gonna say I'm gonna go that far with this, but I definitely want to give them like character. I want to give them some kind of like personality somehow. I don't want to go full, again, it's not, I'm not going for Evil Dead levels of camp necessarily, but I do want there to be a bit of personality to the creatures in this, that they've at least got something more than just being monstrous or being scary. Trust me, I have plans for them. There's gonna be a mystery. Oh, there are gonna be mysteries. There are gonna be mysteries to be had in my setting. Now, whether or not my players actually survive is gonna be its own thing, but there will be mysteries to dive into that I hope they enjoy enough that they'll want to actually do as characters. Because one of the things I'm afraid of, but also is totally valid, is the players to be like, so there's something I want to actually go over that Mothership actually establishes that is a very good bit of like GM advice. I'm gonna call it. It's like just genuinely good GM advice. So one of the things the Mothership does that you do not need, but is helpful if you decide to ever run really any tabletop game, especially a horror game, is first off, they do a good job of really breaking down the arc style of what makes a pretty good horror arc. They break it down into 5 acts: transgression, omens, manifest, banishment, and slumber. And the idea is this could be a full single campaign, but ideally speaking, your players go through this kind of like horror structure regardless of what they're interfacing with. They have something that pops up that causes the horror. Then they have something that bodes to worse things to happen, usually subtly. Then it manifests. It truly shows itself, and the players now have to come face to face with the terrifying thing that they're having to deal with. Then the players have to figure out how to deal with it, make it go away, and then the horror relaxes. It goes away for a time, in the sense that it sleeps, in that the players have dealt with the immediate threat, but it doesn't mean that it's disappeared. It doesn't mean that it's gone now. It just means the players no longer have to deal with it for the moment and they have a breather. I think that's a really good way to design the arc of a horror experience. And that pacing in any good piece of horror media doesn't happen once. It's not that's not the whole film. The film is actually dissected usually into multiple iterations of this cycle. Aliens has it. You have at least 3 parts in which you could probably break down the entirety of the movie into this transgression, omen, manifest, banishment, slumber cycle. It happens multiple times through the course of the entire movie. But the other thing that it has, that the system says, is to like give essentially your players three potential options that they only actually really operate on two at most. Like they can only actually really achieve two at most out of the three. It's something to survive, something to solve, and something to save. And apparently, and this is just like a nice thing that they put at the end of a lot of their manuals, both for the player's hand guide and the warden's hand guide, is they have just like a nice, neat, like step by step, like, hey, just keep these in mind. This is the summary of summaries. You know, like if you're using this manual, just keep these core things in mind when you're running the game. And one of them is core 4 is that survive, solve, or save, and pick 2. You and the players pick 2 of those. I can design 3 of them, but the players actually can only really dedicate to only 2 at most. They have to sacrifice one of them. And I think that's genius for adding tension to a horror narrative that says, like, hey, you are in a setting, you are in a situation that you cannot do all 3 of these. It is not possible. The odds are that stacked against you, and you have to choose 2, which means if they decide to only choose 2, and one of those is survive, and the other one is save, there's a mystery there, but they don't gotta do the mystery. And I have to accept that, and I definitely do accept that. But I still want to, like, prepare for it to still give them those breadcrumbs. Whether they act on it, obviously, is going to be on them, but I still am going to design those parts, because I can't help myself. So I at least hope that they'll experience, like, 1 or 2 of them. And the way that I think about it is that I try to design with situational awareness to be like, technically speaking, it shouldn't be that I expect them for X to interact with X so Y comes out. It's more like, if they ever interact with X, Y will happen if they ever do. Or here's like several different things that in the event that they do X, Y can happen. But it's with the understanding that's only if X happens at all, not because X has to happen. It's more like a contingency. I do try to actually design around contingencies, and have tried to, as I've developed as a tabletop writer and game player and game designer, that, you know, I write to respond to what my players do, not to what my players will do. I have things for if my players do something, not when they do something. And I think that's the best way to think about it, because it's a running joke in my friend group and probably a lot of tabletop out there that it's like, yep, I prepared so much content and you guys did none of it. Like that just is how it goes. And I think the best way to think about the writing of that is like, have it as material that's there, that can always be interacted at a different date. You should never throw something out, I think. You should be like, I made a bunch of stuff, and now they're tools that can be implemented later if you didn't necessarily do them at the moment that you thought that the players were going to. You can always still reference it. You can always still go back to it. You can always still have it come back in different ways. So that's something that I try to keep in mind, or that I am keeping in mind designing this, is that I have those 3 things in mind. One of them a little bit more long-term than the other 2. But also that the game is correct. If I want this to be both a game, and not too railroady, and to be a survival horror experience, and to be a survival experience, it makes sense that the players can only choose 2 of those, but the 3 are always present. And that's something I want to make a point, is like, I want things like player objective to be very actionable. If the players want to put a plan in motion, we will discuss like, hey, what's your plan, what's your game plan, and then the consequences are a result of their plan. And that it's that give and take, right? Like maybe something happens outside of their control every now and then, but if the players make a plan, that actually has action first. I think in my opinion, you let the players act out their actions first. And if the players don't have a plan, then something happens that they don't prepare for. That's kind of going to be my perspective. Is like, if they really don't have a plan, then yes, something's going to happen that they can't plan for. But if they do have a plan, it should be that things happen maybe outside the plan, but in the scope of the plan. That it might change the plan, but the plan is still something that is operable. It's something that the players set in motion to get a result of some kind that is in their favor, or that is attempted to be in their favor. And that if things go outside of the plan, it's not because the players made a bad plan. It's because genuinely that was something that maybe they didn't account for, or maybe that they didn't have enough information for, but not because they just straight up made like a bad play or a bad plan. Like, make the parts of the plan work in the player's favor, and the things that are outside of the player's plan is just something that the players have to react to. But make sure that their plan gets something accomplished that they want, even if it doesn't all go in their way. That's kind of my idea behind the idea of planning gameplay, of doing planning role play, is that if you go through the motions to make a plan, the plan will achieve something, and it will be in the player's benefit, because bad luck happens. But if you set forth a motion of something that is like should be a net positive in some way, it should still have net positive effects, even if everyone rolls like trash. You know? And that's something that I think that this game, the supplementary material, especially for the Warden's Handbook, the Warden's Handbook does less to tell you how to run the game so much as it gives you structure to better structure your narrative. That's the thing that the Warden's Handbook actually does really well. All the mechanics are in the player's handbook. Everything that the players can do and everything that the GM needs to know that the players can do is in the player's handbook. The Warden's Handbook has like very niche cases of mechanics, but otherwise tries to tell you what helps you tell a good horror story. And that's genius, in my opinion. That's why you do not actually need the Warden's Handbook. You can play the game without the Warden's Handbook. The Warden's Handbook just helps you hone in and be able to get the most out of the mechanics of the player's handbook, and also better structure a horror game experience and narrative. It's very good for that, and gives you a little bit of supplement if you need that, like, just little nudge to be able to be like, I don't know what to do here, roll a die, oh hey, that gave me an idea to be able to do something. I like stuff like that. That's why I kind of do like random roll tables to a certain extent. Like, sometimes you can't think of everything, roll a die, hey, that's what you're interfacing with now. Don't have to ask any more questions, and now you've generated something, and you can go from there. I think that's a good thing. The Warden's Handbook gives you ideas and structure. That's all that it does. And I like that. Same thing with the Creature Handbook. I wish the Shipbreaker Handbook kind of does that, but the Shipbreaker Handbook kind of understands that making a ship is a little bit more intensive, and it makes sense. It's a little bit more level design, so it's got to have a little bit more to it. It's a little crunchier, but it's also like, hey, it even says in its materials, hey, one, don't you're at first, at least, like, I think this is from the standpoint of, if this is like your first time playing, don't don't let your players make a ship. They actually say that, like, it's your setting, and if you give the players the ability to make a ship, they'll make a ship that's probably going to be OP. Don't let them make a ship, and don't give them a ship. Um, you come up with like some kind of reason why they might have a ship, but it's not their ship. It shouldn't be their ship. That's just kind of like a limitation that they really encourage that you impart on the player, on the players. You know. Yep, I'm about there. I'm about 30. that went fast. I think that's a good ending discussion too. And also this is just a good picture to end on. This was a lot of fun to draw. This was a lot of fun to draw. I had a blast drawing this one. I think I need to do a couple more things to clean up, but this came out really good. And again, this continues to test my own ability to start really like how much can I get done in a single setting and really, really push that. Like, can I do an environment? Can I do a subject? Can I do everything? Oh, that's fine. That can stay. Honestly, I will do that. I usually don't do it this way, but we'll do it. I'm gonna mix it up. I'm gonna mix it up. Ooh! This is one thing I don't like about Fresco. It does not like if something like this is too small, you really have to zoom in to start grabbing it. It's very like generous, and I still don't know why. It doesn't really make sense to me why it's so generous on the resizing window. It doesn't need to be. Not to my opinion. Yeah. Sure, we got one today, but honestly, there's a lot of good stuff in there. There's a lot of good stuff in this that I established that's like here's an example of the kind of encounter you could get in, and then also the kind of situation you could get in if you let it get this out of hand. I hate it. Fucking no. Here's my thing. If I ever catch myself making a pun, I want to punch myself in the face too. Don't worry. Hate it. I hate that I did that. But there's something about puns that you just got it. When they happen, you just got it. But this came out good. I like this a lot. I think it serves to really continue to be the exploration of the kind of tone that I want to go for, as well as gives me just like good kind of like concept art to work on and like really stash for future projects for things that I want to use in the future, and just like this is just fun to draw. I love drawing this stuff. It's just really cool. It's really cool to draw this. Need one more of these. These are kind of addictive. These are kind of addictive, actually. They're dangerous for me. What the hell? White sesame seeds, black sesame seeds, oatmeal, red bean. Man, they've got so many legumes in here. Pearl barley, flax seeds. Man, this really is bird food. Good. Also cheap. All right. All right. I think I'm gonna call it there. This was good though. This was really really good. This came out really good. This was really fun to draw, and I don't know. I this is where I'm at. This is where I'm at the moment, and until I need to do more like concept art, I want to do more of this like kind of promo like situational art. I want to draw situations and the kinds of things that like my players will engage with. It also gives me a chance to like really start practicing and like nailing a vibe and maybe getting a mindset of like what kinds of stuff, what kind of feeling I'm going for. So, all right. All right. Well, I'm going to start winding down. Before we go, though, we're going to do one more thing. We're going to do one more thing before the end of every stream. I'm going to open up Paint. We're going to make a prompt together. If you want to participate in chat, all you got to do is type in chat. Whatever chat says uses a reference. And then I draw it in Paint, and then I have to share that image before I rate out. Put my computer back together. Let me put my computer back together. Oh, God. Dangerous. Dangerous. Or destroy everything. I have to be careful or else I'll destroy everything. And that would not be good. Believe it or not. Alright. Let's see. Things getting out of hand. No, really. So many hands. If you want to add to that, I'll give you guys a minute. I gotta open up my timer and everything. Ooh. I gotta open up Paint, and then if nobody says anything, I'll go ahead and draw that. Alright. It's fine. Now do you see why I never draw hands for these illustrations? Can't do it. It's not easy for me to do. But I will do it this time. I'll get one realistic hand in there. There we go. This is getting absurd. All right. Well, if you want to see that image, stick around to the very end. I also do a bit of a closing bit. We do raid after every stream, so that way the daywalkers in our chat can keep watching. Just everybody else out there, make sure to go lock your doors and windows. It's almost lunchtime for daywalkers. Actually, no, it's no longer lunchtime for daywalkers. And thank you for joining, everybody. Hope you had a good time and you enjoyed the show. If you're able to join the live show, thank you for stopping by, chatting, and watching. If you're watching this in the future, thank you for taking the time to go back and rewatching the VOD. We appreciate it. If you're out there and you enjoyed this and you want to see more of what we're up to, I recommend scrolling down below and following, or clicking any of the links. There's a link to an Instagram, a Facebook. There's a link to all the socials and the Discord. We post when we go live on any one of those platforms, as well as anything else that we're up to. And just generally, you can come hang out with the rest of the community there. It's a good time on the Discord. Speaking of which, a shout out to our community out there and everyone who follows. You guys are a wonderful audience and we appreciate you. If we do anything particularly entertaining or noteworthy, feel free to clip it and share it on the internet. Just make sure to also hashtag on MCCanary or link it back to the stream so people could find more of the good stuff we do here. And if you want to see the stream grow, you gotta let people know. I appreciate that people have been talking about the stream. I encourage you guys to do it more. It does help us out, and just genuinely, it's really cool that you guys are willing to do that. I appreciate it. It means a lot to me, and honestly, like, it's the best way to let people know about the stream. It really genuinely is. It worked for others. And it has worked here, actually. Like, it's always wild. Like, people have come in and been like, my friend told me about you. And I'm like, why? But I like it. So go tell people about the stream. Go tell your friends about the stream. I won't. And as always, a huge thank you to all of our supporters on Patreon, Ko-fi, and Twitch. Your generosity allows us to continue to expand the stream as well as take on more projects. And the stream would not be made possible without viewers like you, so we thank you. If you want to see your name added to this list, as well as a couple of benefits you can get, you could always subscribe directly on Twitch, or check out the Ko-fi and Patreon here. It'll show you everything that you can get, and any amount is always appreciated. Once again, thank you. Thank you, True Mods, for doing a wonderful job of holding back the Royal Army to prevent becoming famous. Thank you, everybody, for just coming and hanging out. I hope you had a good time. Get you through housekeeping and get you on your way. Check out the rest of our friends at Goblin Entertainment here. That link tree has links to everyone's channels and everything that they've done and they've been up to. And the rest of my stuff can be found here. That has everything that I post to. So go check everybody out in Goblin Entertainment. Stick around. Let's go say hi to Jen. There's like no... at first I was like, man, there's like nobody's here. And then I went to go raid and I'm like, wow, nobody's live. Fuck. So let's go say hi to Jen. What? It's fucking Saturday the 13th. Oh, the 13th. What is it about? Everybody have a bad day on the 13th. We'll go say hi to Jen. They're playing Zomboid. I haven't raided Jen in a while, and I don't think I've ever raided Jen as with arts. We'll see if she wants to see what we've been working on today. So stick around for that. She's a good gal. Otherwise, have yourselves a good afternoon. Take it easy. And remember, puns are bad. Bad for your health. They're bad for your friendships. They're bad for you. Oh, I needed to put that there. I put it in the wrong spot. Oh, I put it in the wrong spot. My bad, everybody. There we go. Look at it. I put as many goddamn hands as I could draw with a mouse as I could. Some of those hands might even be mine. That's not true. If you're familiar with my art, I don't draw hands. Except for when I want to. Kind of. I have drawn myself with like an unsettlingly realistic hand once as a bit because I'm a sick